We thought we'd take some time this morning, and Lori and me together, and at appropriate moments, Melissa, just dive in as well. There've been a lot of recent conversations, um, all of them fun in their own way, with people just about the center, and we have new people joining us almost week by week. And I think I'll start with the conversation I had with Galen, just because it's fun. Where he called me and said, "You know, I have to ask you a question. You know, because based on your history and where you've come from, and then when you were up at Yokoji Zen Mountain Center in breaks, you went running up the trail with a pair of pruning shears to trim the trail." He said, "I just assumed you were like some military right-wing conservative guy." And so we had a good chuckle about that, and talked about trail running and just wanting to have the trail clear and maybe having too much energy, but that it not being a particular political stance. In book club, we've been looking at what is Zen and what does it mean to our lives, and how does that manifest itself in practice. People like Philip and Ken, hi Ken, in particular, were like, you know, I want the real deal. I want to engage with the real deal. You know, what is this authentic Zen, and what does it mean? Some of you saw a beautiful email that Chalet crafted a day or two ago, where she talked about the change in her life since she started practicing Zen and how she holds it as a new context for her life. We've heard that from many of you, and then we've had conversations too about the importance of community, and even our son Nick and our son-in-law Luis commented after last week's talk on Father's Day, how they were impressed by the quality of sharing and by the safe and open environment that was created for people to express whatever it was that they had to express. And so this, Lori and I were in conversation, and we were like, you know, we've had so much movement and so much advancement and so much time since the idea of Prajna Heart Zen Center came up, and since it was founded, and since we really got the ball rolling in our community a year ago, January, so 18 months ago. But since our founding in 2018, that there are a lot of you on the screen here with us, and those that might watch the recording later, a lot of people on the screen that don't know, like, why did we do this? You know, why Prajna Heart Zen Center? Why Lori?
Why us?
Yeah, why?
And Melissa.
Yeah, why this? And that it might be time to just revisit that quickly. We also asked a couple of people, have you read the statement on the website? And people were like, no. So we thought it was just a good time to revisit a little bit of this why. Anything from your side there?
Well, one thing that comes up for me is I want to say that when Dan was referring to the environment that is in our community, that is about really allowing for vulnerability and really being a safe place to talk about your life, that's created by each person. That's, you know, that's something that comes from each of your hearts, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think it needs to be said.
So, I mean, the simple answer to why do we do this is Zen, right? You know, like, we're here to provide Zen training, you know, and all that it has to offer. One of those things at the top of the list is the end of suffering, right? With sources of suffering being our greed, anger, and ignorance. So Zen practice is designed to cut through that, right? To cut through the delusions and to help us get some control over those delusions and some freedom from them, so that greed, anger, ignorance are not operating so much in the forefront, and that we can appreciate our lives with more peace, joy, and equanimity. So, those are a lot of big words, but, Zen has been around for 2,500 years, and it is a path toward greater peace, joy, equanimity, and a way of living that is more effective and more joyful. At the center of that, of course, is Zazen, our practice of sitting, and whether it's sitting counting our breaths or just sitting or sitting with koans, all of this is designed to help us break through, to discover our true self, to kill off these delusions. By the way, I was sitting recently, and those of you that have exposure to other centers, and Yokoji in particular, you'll notice in the vows, in the second vow, desires are inexhaustible, I vow to put an end to them, or delusions, right? And so I've had some interesting conversations with both Roshis, Tenshin and Yoshin, about desires, delusions. In part, there's a translation thing there, which is which way do you translate it? Desires comes out of some of our history with Santa Monica Zen Center, having to do with attachments, attachments to things. It's also somewhat useful, for any of us addictive personalities, no matter what we're addicted to, whether it's our ideas or other things. Delusions is interesting and perhaps broader, in the sense that we've been talking about cutting through the delusions. So, that's still to be determined. Right now, we're still chanting desires. When we're up at Yokoji, we chant delusions, so.
But one thing I wanted to say is that in practice, I think we're all in front of every moment what our preferences are about where we are right now in this moment and each breath. And, one of the things that I've been learning about delusions is that things are what they are. They may not be your preference, but things are what they are. And if we can accept them, that gives you a lot of freedom, a lot more space to be you and to be in the moment.
So a lot of you are sitting there going, okay, so Zen, yeah, we knew that. It's a Zen center, right? But every Zen center and every Sangha forms, right? And it forms around a key group of people, which includes all of you. And it forms around certain character and intention to the practice, because honestly, ZCLA is not far from here, right? And many of us could go to ZCLA and practice and have. I sneak in there every once in a while. And Yokoji is up the mountain, and there's a lot of different centers. So why Prajna Heart?
Because of the people, I would imagine.
Yeah, but why open a new set of doors? Lori and I were sitting out in New Mexico, and after a few years of farming garlic and raising hay and doing irrigation systems, and we had a good group of friends and community out there. But it became really apparent to us that Sangha, in the sense that we had known Sangha, was missing. That community that is dedicated to exploring Zen practice and challenging each other and supporting each other in that support. So we had been having that conversation, and about that time, we were on the phone with Yoshin, and he essentially said, I think it's time. I think it's time for you to open a new center and to take the best of what we had at Santa Monica and jettison the rest, and just, you know, open the doors and see who walks through. And so we heeded that call, and you know, part of that was coming back to Los Angeles. You know, but why, you know, so community and Sangha was one part of it. But what Lori and I saw, and you should speak up here very quickly, was that even in the growth and dissolution of Santa Monica and in what was going on in the world, to us, there was a consistent theme that Zen addresses directly, and that is separation. And these divides that we have, divides between self and other, left and right, this and that, you know, that the distance, and in some places wide chasms that we have so much trouble crossing. And we were like, that would be something worth dedicating our lives to and dedicating a center to, is stepping over those divides, working with Zen and the authentic Zen training to close that gap, to make the gap disappear. Wouldn't it be great if we could take the practice and go there and heal some of the wounds in our own direct community, but broader and broader and broader still? Is that?
Well, yeah, and really work together to unpack what all those separations are made of, and how do we personally and, you know, as individuals, really look at them and acknowledge them and let them go, you know, or at least work with them to the degree that we can. Maybe that's a way to go forward in a world that's so surprisingly divided. And so I just think we're really having a hard time in our world today. And I think that with the power that we have as a group, I think we can help to solve that, at least for ourselves, and see where it radiates out from us.
So we've already talked about how that encompasses Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the three treasures, right? Buddha, the awakened one, that we are all Buddha, that is each of our birthright. It's who we are, and how do we scrub the detritus away so that the Buddha shines through and is expressed through all of us. We've talked about the Dharma in terms of the teachings, and taking these teachings that have been so faithfully transmitted generation to generation through 2,600 years, and pass them on, keep them alive. How do we keep them alive? And then Sangha we've talked about. And then John Hopper, this is for you, and you just dropped off. In a meeting last Monday night, John Hopper said, well, you know, maybe what we need is like a classic business vision statement, right? You know, vision and mission and values. And of course, John is one of our newer members, and some of this exists, but this led to also like, well, maybe it's time to share that again. So anyway, John, this is for you. Reaching into my design thinking arsenal and going, well, if we were going to craft a vision statement in a classic sense, this is for John. John, this is your vision statement. If you had a classic vision statement, and a vision statement in this sense is, how do you envision the world? What is the state of things if you accomplish as an organization your highest aims, your highest purpose, you know, without restrictions, without looking at all of the barriers that might be in the way or the hurdles to get over? If you just nailed it, what would the world look like? And so based on what Lori and I were just saying and that model, I mean, you could say that our vision of Prajna Heart Zen Center is a world of no separation. Very simply, we envision a world of no separation. No you and me, him and her, right and left, this and that. You know, a world where unification and unity and equanimity is possible. You know, and a vision statement is something that is way out there, right? It's aspirational and it's challenging and sometimes a little scary. So how do you make that real? And that's where mission statements come in. And so at this point, I just want to revisit the website, which some of you have seen and some of you have not. And let's just work through this, because when Lori and I revisited, we were like, wow, that's actually pretty good. And especially given everything that's going on in the world today. And Melissa, as we do this, I would love for you to jump in, because Melissa has been with us from the very beginning. Is this showing up on the screen with coronavirus update at the top? Okay, so it's not too long, but we'll just go through it. A place to gather. So right now that's Zoom, but you know, it has been rooms. To explore and deploy ancient Zen practices in service of a more peaceful, joyful, and fulfilled modern life. Okay, so we've covered that so far. This is taking the ancient practice of Zen and bringing it forward into our modern Western context. This next sentence was key to those of us at the beginning: a place to call home for your own unique spiritual journey. So Zen is a path, and it is a way, and it is a technology, but we also know that everybody has their own way and path within the path. And so this statement is there to acknowledge that we each have our own journey, we each have our own pace, we're each going to have our own way, and we're each going to have our own expression of that way, and we honor that as a center. Formed in 2018, we are a community that believes in the application of wisdom-based compassion to the everyday problems and opportunities in front of us. Wisdom and compassion. Okay, this is actually Prajna Heart. This is where the name of the center came from. Prajna Heart, wisdom, compassion. Manjushri Avalokitesvara, Kuan Yin. Wisdom, compassion, so that in balance, you have the cutting sword of wisdom and the open arms and heart of compassion working together. How do we apply those to our lives today? Like, this is not theoretical. This is like, how does it benefit us today? We are a group diverse in background, belief, and experience. Okay, this is again saying, we don't believe in the divide. Come to us as you are, from where you are, and let's work together. Unified by a common understanding that the end of suffering is based in love, and that reconciliation must and can happen across the perceived barriers that divide us. It was really fun for us to reread this in the last day or two and sit with it, because look, we've got COVID-19 dividing us on masks and no masks, which, you know, is roughly left and right in some circles. We've got the black,
It feels that way.
yeah, it feels that way. We've got the Black Lives Matters, you know, situation and issue in front of us right now. And a couple of weeks ago, we brought in a very strong and didactic point of view around that to spark conversation. But that in the very beginning, when we looked at this, it's like wisdom and compassion bridge the divides, reconcile the differences, right? How do we bridge the gap? And how can Zen help us do this? This is our Sangha, our practice. Whether new to Zen or lifelong practitioner, we invite you to join us. A simple invitation. So I don't know how many of you have seen that before. if there were parts of it that resonated with you or not, but I wanted to share that. We wanted to share that kind of almost line by line, if not word by word, so that for you, those of you who are newer, and for those of you who have been around a while, we revisit that and get some sense of that. Melissa, do you want to jump in here with anything?
Well, first off, I love that we are rereading this statement. It's been a while since I've read it, even though I initially put it up on the website. But it really does capture a lot of what our initial intention was in a really beautiful way. I mean, I know that for me personally, I mean, the reason when Dan and Lori came back into town, and I remember when you first walked in the door and I was sitting with the ocean, I thought to myself, we're going to start a Zen center. Like, I don't know why it was crazy. I'm like, we're going to start a Zen center, because I had been craving one after the Santa Monica Zen Center closed. I'd been craving Sangha, you know, and Zen practice, the true physical Zen practice, which is a little harder via Zoom, but like when you get together with people in a space and go through the technology, because to me it is such a beautiful guide in life, and it is really, Lori, I think you said it really well. It is really, no separation is really one of the biggest themes, the biggest things that comes out of Zen practice in general, in direct ways and in very subtle ways. Just, yeah, you just feel more at one with the people, with the Sangha, with the world. So I guess yeah, that kind of sums up. I just did it when I reconnected with you guys. It was like a no brainer. Like, yes, what a beautiful thing to create. And it's been such a delight to see who ends up joining on, you know, the way it grows in this beautiful organic way, and all the awesome faces that we have on the call. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it. That's my thoughts on the topic, but really glad that we're revisiting this. I think it's always good to go back to like what is at our core.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Anything for you at the moment?
Well, one thing that occurred to me earlier when we were talking, just before we started talking, hearing from Melissa, is that the thing about this project that we're talking about of taking on the fact of separation is it takes a lot of courage and determination and just knowing that you can. And I think that when you have a core that's created from a path that you practice, I think that's what we need. I think that's, you know, there's so much that's supported in the culture today that's about separation, and the culture of Zen is just the opposite. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah. So there's all of that, and Lori and I and Melissa early on also have held this vision of Prajna Heart Zen Center being a classic Zen training center, a center of classic Zen training, but also a community focal point for bringing different points of view together. So whether that's a different spiritual path and learning about that, like Kundalini Yoga can, or whether it's a point of view, as we've had in the past, of somebody coming in from Rwanda and sharing with us what it's like to reconcile among people that have actually killed neighbors and family members. Whether it's, and don't get triggered, Galen, whether it's Lori and me meeting with former President George Bush, you know.
I can tell that story now.
No, we're not going to tell the whole story. And there was no conversion either way in that, but, you know, stepping across and taking the meeting and seeing what could be there. So we see building a center that will be a focal point and a venue for a vibrant exchange of ideas in service of challenging our beliefs, assumptions, opinions, and delusions, so that we can break free and see what is truly there in front of us.
To strengthen our value personally in that area as well.
Another beautiful thing that's happened as we've grown this is a relationship with Yokoji, Zen Mountain Center, and Tenshin Roshi and the gang up there. We're continuing to build that. In pragmatic terms, it gives us a place to all go, do a sesshin in the mountains with expert tenzos and birds and very senior practitioners and teachers. So that's a great gift and connection for all of us. And that's an ongoing project. And then there's just, the training that we offer ourselves. And John, I know you had some questions about this, and Mark, you're new to our group as well. There have been questions around this from other people as well. Is, what is this Zen thing, and how does it work, and how do you train, and what does it mean? And from our point of view, it means everything, all of the above, and a context for how you live your life, a life of integrity, the Eightfold Path, what is right action, right language, right livelihood, and so forth. How do you live your life? What is that like? I know, Ken, that's been interesting to you. Philip, when you listened to the recording just last week, you said, when I heard that the final part of Koan's study was studying the precepts or the moral foundation as koans, he said, I was hooked. So even down to the precepts, I vow to do good, I vow to do good for others, I vow to stop all evil, and then the 10 that follow that. Providing a context for how we live and how we go out into the world. This is an important part of this center and practice as well. Which leads really just to the poem that was in the last newsletter, the attempt at poetry on my part, the sweet perfume, lightly misted fragrance, enlightenment lingering some time, and then we sweat. All right, so spray it on, right? Versus eating garlic, say the garlic farmers, pores oozing eons, some oh too much, and others who have taken this particular meal more of that. And the point of that is when you really take this in, it's a molecular level change that is just who you are and how you are being and how you are received in the world. Now, if you're a cook and you love garlic, that's a good thing. But this is a challenge and a confrontation for some, and some, this might be too much, it might be too much, or maybe not. I mean, you could come and be part of the community, and that's great. We've got book club, we've got this, we've got that. And that's all good. But ultimately, Zen is about a way of being oozing from your pores. Now, I have to acknowledge Anyo Ancheta, also a friend of ours from Yokoji, because she wrote back. She got the poem in the newsletter, and she wrote back and she nailed it. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to write. So here's what Anyo wrote. Fragrant, stink, every orifice speaks. And that was it. I just think that is so beautiful. Fragrant, stink, every orifice speaks. So thank you, Anyo. I know she's with Jitsudo's funeral services this weekend. I'm going to leave it there. Anything else for you before we kind of just open it up?
I'd love to hear from others.
Yeah. So I'd just like to open it up for thoughts, observations, questions. Again, just a regrounding on why we started this darn fool thing, where we think we're going with it, where it takes us all maybe a different destination, but it's a journey. And as I said, Zoom won't let me unmute you, so you have to unmute yourself. So go, as you will.
A good question.
Yeah, I'd like to address being picked on for a minute. One of the beautiful things about the precepts, I think, one of the greatest ones is not to elevate oneself above other people. And what I find is among people who are real practitioners, it's almost impossible to get them to talk badly about somebody else. So before I ever laid eyes on you, Dan, I met a couple people from the Santa Monica Zen Center who came to Yokoji and introduced themselves. And I said, Santa Monica's a great place. And they went, yeah, well, we split up. We're just going around looking to see other places to practice. And I said, what happened? And they said, well, it's kind of a political thing. And I went, and nothing, nobody had anything to say. And then, of course, when I met you, I mentioned that to you. I heard that there was politics that split up the Zen Center. And you said, yeah. I said, well, you were part of that. And you went, well, I was there, so I guess I was part of it. So now I was filling in blanks, about Santa Monica seems like a very liberal place, Venice Beach and all of that going on. And that's my imagination, but that's the way I see the neighborhood. So I'm thinking it had to be some kind of conservative attitude that blew that thing up. And so it, in the name of not stirring up any kind of nonsense, I was walking on eggshells around you because I had no idea, exactly who you were. Coming here and hearing your approach to this has been, eye-opening for me and a wonderful experience. We have another priest at Yokoji who is African-American and gay. And he's led a number of beginner's mind session up there, and I attended a bunch of them, and I've been to a couple of them with him. And one day he was talking about what is our attitude about people who are different than we are. And he said, as you can imagine, I run into a lot of that. And he goes, my position is if David Duke shows up to the Zen Center, I say we put a plate out for him. That this practice is all inclusive. And his notion was that we take it back to the reported exclamation of Shakyamuni when he had his enlightenment experience. It said, I, the great earth, and all sentient beings have the wisdom and virtue of thusness right here, right now, and for all time. So I told him, if David Duke comes around, you better get me to the other side of the room. Now, and he laughed, and we talked about this for a long time. I went to Daison with him and asked him to explain that. It just seemed so unreasonable. And he said, when I run into problems like that with people, I realize that I'm getting to the edge of my understanding, the edge of my practice. And that struck me really deeply, and made me realize that, the self-limitations that I have of my own because of my own biases. Jokai Sensei at Yokoji has described me to others as, here's Galen, he's just slightly left of Che Guevara. when it comes to his political outlook. And, I wear that as a badge of pride, but it still keeps me, that's where that's how I become an ideologue. And, that's not this practice, So I'd like to say that that's the beauty of this. This is an ocean with no bottom. We can learn a lot about ourselves and still not know everything, and we take what we have and apply it the best that we can to our actions in day-to-day life, whatever is in front of us. So, so I really appreciate your mission statement and acknowledge that that's absolutely, that's how we end suffering. Whether or not we succeed has nothing to do with it. It's trying. I mean, the Buddha wasn't very good at it. Like Nichiren Roshi says, it's been 2,500 years and we still haven't done it. The only other thing I want to say is I don't jump to conclusions about people running up down the mountains. We have weird physical freaks on the left too. But anyway, thanks for giving me opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Galen.
Galen, thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't ask your permission before telling that story. I thought it was a nice bridging, and I love you dearly. So
thank you, brother.
Galen, I like that. There's a lot of similarities. What I deal with is, as soon as I judge something, I stop exploring them or it. And Dan, you said a word, it reminds me of dialectic, like two opposite views or two, and I can polarize them. And I think my work lately is to come in the middle ground and explore instead of judge and shut and withdraw. And, that in of itself is a practice. It's not automatic, but if I can look at the other side and you used the word, it was something dia, but
discursive, yeah.
What was it?
Discursive, I think was the word.
Discursive. That was one, and today you used another dia word. Oh. But anyway.
Anybody remember? I don't know.
It wasn't diabolical.
No.
But if I can spend some time and be present and go to the other side and determine it makes sense what they're thinking based on maybe what they grew up with or the exposure they had or their belief systems, it makes sense they might think that way. And then it allows me a space. I don't have to agree with it, but there's just a little bit of room that opens up.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll go. First of all, it's supremely disappointing that you can't mute people now because I teach kids and sometimes they need to be muted.
Oh, you can mute them. You can't unmute them.
Well, that's also just as annoying because if you're teaching anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever, trials and tribulations, right? I never looked at the website, so that's that. But it is incredibly beautifully written. That's really, it's really a great mission. And I, having come from the Santa Monica Zen Center, and been around at least for, I kind of ducked off, I think, before everything really truly fell apart. But I sort of came in and out here and there. It is really nice to see this community building as a place where all opinions are welcome, and we're all committed to ending suffering. And I think the vision statement of what did you call it? What was it again? It's
A world of no separation.
a world of no separation. I think that's noble and great. And yeah, I just really appreciate. It's really nice to have a group of people, and also Art and Marsh. I I just love you guys so much. So, and Melissa, I feel like we didn't get to know each other that great back at Santa Monica Zen Center, but I know you from there. And Galen, I think I met you when I came up for some kind of a session type thing one time. But it's just really nice to have like a group of people that's really committed to, um, you know, to figuring this out and really bringing back the middle way, which I think that's what we need right now because of what you were talking about, Lori. We're so divided, and people are talking about, my friends on the right are talking about, oh, well, we're on the brink of civil war. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's not, come on. Nobody's going to pick up guns and start shooting each other. But then people are getting shot, so who knows?
Yeah.
So I just really appreciate the mission of it all.
Well, and Jeff, I just wanted to acknowledge you and your music and your work. It definitely is a reflection of where you live with all this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Please.
Can you guys hear me today?
Yes.
Good. So I haven't been to the website, and I'm actually new to this. I'm grateful to John who introduced me to the group. I'm very grateful to all of you guys for letting me sit here and listen and learn. I live in Las Vegas, and one of the struggles that I have had here is like finding a place with people, open-minded people who are trying to make the world a better place just by the way they live their lives. So I'm grateful that I can join you guys on Sunday and listen to all the sharing and learning and trying to do better in life, not only for myself, but for the whole world. So I also want to share something about Sunday, although it might be a little too late, about Father's Day. May I?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I didn't want to say anything about my father the first time you called my name, is because I didn't even get to meet my father. And I didn't have a relationship with him, never, ever. Because when I found out who my father was, I soon to believe him. Also, I was angry with him for many, many years in my life, because I was the result of him having an affair with a younger woman. I met John through landmark education, and I was able to work that anger toward my father through landmark. And right now I don't have much feelings for whatever happened. I'm just grateful that he gave me life. So
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
that's all I want to say today.
That's beautiful.
I'm glad you're today.
And I want to go to LA as soon. I used to live in Los Angeles. Actually, I lived in Los Angeles for 16 years, different places. When the center opened, I'm gonna go there to meet you all guys in person.
Oh, beautiful.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Bing.
Thank you, Savvy. And one thing I do is meet quality, heartful people. And Savvy, that was great. And then I also have my friend Lori, who joined today for the first time, and she's joining by audio. So wanted to introduce her.
Welcome, Lori. I noticed.
Welcome, Lori.
Welcome, Lori. Another Lori. Anybody else?
Yes, I actually, Sevi, I would like to thank you for sharing that. Your story is extremely similar to mine, which is also why I was hesitant to speak up for Father's Day. My father wasn't present. He died when I was really young, and the only thing I knew was that he had seen me twice, and his statement was he just couldn't get attached. And I went through all that same anger, and I'm not a big fan of talking about it. So I want to thank you for putting yourself out there and just adding one more reason that I feel more part of this group. Thank you.
Well, John introduced me to the group. Only that made me feel safe to share my heart. Plus, listening to you guys for the past 3 weeks or so, I feel comfortable enough to share anything. So the good thing is that I have brothers and sisters that they only have brothers and sisters, but some of them treat me like whole, like not only half, like whole. And my grandfather, my father's father, he gave me the last name, so I have my father's last name, and my whole family welcomed me as part of the family. So it's been good.
Great.
Yes. Anyway,
I'm doing
that's it.
and cough, and there's nobody here.
Except me.
Well, no separation.
Mhm.
Shalay, you have any? I'm gonna. I can see her.
Just trying to open
We
it
can see the finger trying to unmute.
up.
She's on the phone. Anybody know, John, you know the deal on the phone?
I can't hear you.
I think I got it.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, good.
Yeah. After trying the phone the other way, I get it. I have all these challenges with technology here. I am just so happy to have found the group. I guess, I mean, I've said a lot of this already in the past, but yeah, I feel like I found my people in the group. And I think one of my favorite things is the sense of compassion that brings us to, how would I say it? I guess that whole story about not walking by the manhole, that sense of kind of responsibility to others and to stop suffering. That's the other thing that's really important to me. So yeah, I'm just really grateful to have the group to grow with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shalay.
Where do we go from here?
There's Marsh. I don't know if she's trying to unmute. I saw your lips move, Marsh.
All I say is for saying, you know, when I've reached the edge of my practice, that those words just reinforce something, because until then I was remembering the thing of the mind's need to be right, and over again that has helped me so much in my own life, is that recognizing that I need to be right, like a survival kind of thing, and being able to set that aside has just been so empowering. But your expression, your sharing of that expression at the edge of my practice, I'm carrying that one with me. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thanks, Mark. And Galen.
This is sort of unrelated, but first of all, I just want to thank you guys for all your support in my concert series. It really made a huge difference, and I just want that to be clear. Thanks a lot for all of your support.
Very welcome.
We just finished our second concert, as I think know, and that went great. The Code Green campaign. We're looking for another charity for our next concert, which is July 25th. And I just want to put it out there. I'm open to suggestions if anybody has good ideas. There's certain parameters that we need to meet based on our experience with the other charities, but we were going to do like a Black Lives Matter thing, but then for various reasons that doesn't seem like a smart idea. So then we were looking regionally, maybe like I'm sort of thinking either food banks or homeless shelters or like that. So, but if anybody has like an idea, I would love to hear it, I guess. So if you think of something, you could either email me or email the center and they can pass it along, or you can get in touch with me directly. I can put my number here in the chat. If that's okay. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfectly fine.
And if you want to reach out to the center, it's Prajna Heart Zen Center.org.
PHC.
PHZC.org.
There you go. Cool.
Kenny, my friend, how are you doing there? Is it still making sense?
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yay.
Hey.
We could hear
Okay. I am enjoying listening to not only you and Laurie, but Jeff and John and Galen and Savvy and everyone else who has contributed today. I'm sorry I couldn't stay for the entire sitting last Sunday. I was committed to Guru Singh's Father's Day solstice solar eclipse class last Sunday. So I did sit for the, I was with you guys for the first sit, and then I had to drop out as I texted you guys. But today's Dharma talk and the mission statement and other people's reactions to the mission statement has led me to recognize in myself that I have not lived up to my sort of resolution for 2020, which was to shut the hell up and listen. And I've realized in the past 6 months that I have been doing way too much talking. And I need to do way more listening. I understand that some things have to be said, and I have said them. But I also understand that I need to really shut the hell up and just listen more. And by that, I also mean listening to myself. Yes, we all have the mind chatter going on, and it's constant. We pay attention to it or not, let it go or not. And I've just started understanding recently that I've been paying way too much attention to it. So now I have to really refine, another word, I have to refine my listening. And I have to start understanding what I'm listening to. But first of all, I have to listen. So that's been my takeaway from today and for the last 6 months, that I really have to start listening and paying attention to what I'm listening to. And I'm going to resolve for the next 6 months to do just that. And Dan, whether or not this has to do anything with the koan studies, I'm not sure yet. But yes, I have to listen more and talk less. And whether that's fragrant or stinky, I'm not sure yet. I'm sure it's both. But what I like about what Anyo said is that she's absolutely correct. for me, listening has to do with wholeness in both sense of orifice and all of it. So whole and whole, yes, yes, yes. Wow, yes, it is whole. So I'm going to listen and try to pay attention and try to be more with what other people have to say. I am very, very, very sorry that I don't have a picture of my father. And that was mind-shattering in itself, that I didn't have a physical picture of my father. I was like, wow, what is with that? You know? So I wasn't able to share even that. But yes, I do have pictures in my mind, of course, of my father. But I was very, first of all, surprised, and then very disappointed that I don't physically have a picture of my father.
I used a picture of you and Lori on the Bulldog Trail for the spirit of your father. And Ken, I hope that out of your listening, you continue to speak. And I hope that makes sense. Because speaking out of that deep listening is a different kind of speaking.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm going to try to do more of for the next 6 months.
And the other thing I would challenge you on, Ken is a great body worker, Lomi massage, among others, and Reiki, is I know you know how to listen completely and wholly with your hands. And if you just hold that as a model for who you are, you've already got this down. So just keep practicing. Okay?
I'll do my best. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for the reminder for us all.
All right. Going tall, I guess and you don't have to say anything. Just making sure you're not overlooked. You good? Okay. And Lori, thank you so much for joining. Anyone is welcome to speak up, first time or 400th time. But mostly we're just happy to have you and hope to see you back.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself when John was introducing me, so apologies for seeming distant. Thank you. I've enjoyed soaking in a lot of what's been shared and talked about today. Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome. Come back.
Come back. Thank you, everybody. We're going to end on the 4 vows. Since we did, let's just do something fun. Since we did desires at the beginning, we'll do delusions at the end.
Okay.
Presto changeo, hang on. Okay.
Oops, accidentally.
All right, here we go.
Ready? Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to say them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless.